If you are currently struggling with cold extremities, heaviness in your legs, or that persistent numbness that keeps you awake at night, you are likely dealing with a circulatory system that is slowly shutting down. It is estimated that millions of adults over the age of 60 suffer from some form of peripheral artery disease, often undiagnosed until the symptoms become debilitating. The tragedy is that most people attempt to solve this serious physiological decline by purchasing standard multivitamins or generic circulation blends. From a medical perspective, I have to be very direct with you. The vast majority of those supplements are completely ineffective for vascular pathology. They simply do not contain the therapeutic threshold required to force a constricted, hardened blood vessel to open. You are essentially flushing your money down the drain while your condition potentially worsens. Today, we are going to look at the biochemistry of blood flow and the specific compounds required to intervene in this process. We are going to discuss the only 3 specific nutrients that have a demonstrated mechanism of action to restore vascular function, and we will discuss the precise dosages required to achieve a clinical result. Before we dive into the physiology of these compounds, I want you to take a moment and interact with this community. Please leave a comment below telling me where you are watching from, which city and country. I read through these comments personally, and it is truly encouraging to see a global community of seniors taking charge of their health. If you find this information helpful, please like the video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe if you are new here. Now, let us address the first major hurdle in treating poor circulation: the physical constriction of the vessel and the viscosity of the blood itself. The first compound we must discuss is often referred to as the cleanup crew of the vascular system, but medically, we look at it as a potent vasodilator and a lipid modulating agent. This is vitamin B3, specifically niacin. However, this is where most patients make a critical error. If you look at a standard multivitamin, you will see niacin listed, but the dosage is usually negligible, perhaps 20 milligrams. To impact the caliber of a blood vessel, we need to move beyond nutritional sufficiency and into therapeutic intervention. We are looking for a specific reaction mediated by prostaglandins, which causes the smooth muscle within your arterial walls to relax. When these muscles relax, the vessel diameter increases. In hemodynamics, even a small increase in diameter leads to a massive increase in flow volume. This transforms a sluggish, narrow stream into a robust river of oxygenated blood reaching your toes and fingers. To achieve this, you cannot use the no-flush versions of niacin, such as inositol hexanocotinate. While those are marketed to avoid discomfort, they are metabolically distinct and fail to release the free nicotinic acid quickly enough to trigger that immediate vasodilation. You must utilize nicotinic acid, the flushing form. When you take this, you will experience a flush, a sensation of heat and redness on the skin. Many patients fear this, but as a physician, I tell you to view this as a clinical sign of efficacy. That heat you feel is literally your capillaries opening up and blood rushing into areas that have been starved of oxygen. It is evidence that the compound is working. We generally start patients at a lower dose, around 250 milligrams daily with food, to assess tolerance. Over 2 weeks, as the body adapts, this is titrated up to 500 milligrams. This dosage not only opens the vessels, but also favorably alters blood lipid profiles, making the blood less viscous and sticky, further reducing the resistance your heart must pump against. However, opening the vessel is only the first step. If the vessel wall itself is rigid and calcified, vasodilation becomes difficult, which leads us to a structural problem that niacin alone cannot solve. This brings us to the structural integrity of your arteries. You can try to force a vessel to open, but if the arterial wall has become brittle and hard, it loses its elasticity. In geriatric medicine, arterial stiffness is a primary predictor of cardiovascular events. Think of a healthy artery like a fresh rubber hose. It expands and contracts with every heartbeat. An aged, unhealthy artery is like a dried-out plastic pipe. It is rigid and prone to damage. The primary culprit for this stiffening is often the misplacement of calcium. Calcium is essential for bone density, but when it accumulates in the soft tissues of your vascular system, it essentially turns your arteries into bone. This condition is known as vascular calcification. This is where our second critical compound comes into play, acting as a regulator of calcium distribution. We are talking about vitamin K2. It is crucial to distinguish this from vitamin K1. K1 is found in green leafy vegetables and is primarily involved in hepatic blood clotting factors. It does very little for arterial stiffness. We specifically need vitamin K2, and even more specifically, the menaquinone, 7 or 7-Malawian-Quatches form. The biological mechanism here is fascinating. Your body produces a protein called matrix GLA protein, or MGP. This protein acts as an inhibitor of vascular calcification, but it is produced in an inactive state. It requires vitamin K2 to undergo a chemical process called carboxylation. Once K2 activates this protein, MGP acts like a microscopic vacuum cleaner. It actively seeks out calcium that has deposited in the arterial walls and binds to it. It then mobilizes that calcium, removing it from the soft tissue and directing it toward the skeletal system where it belongs. This is often referred to as the calcium paradox. K2 helps prevent osteoporosis while simultaneously preventing atherosclerosis. The 7-Malawian-Quatches form is superior because of its pharmacokinetics. It has a long half-life, meaning it stays in your bloodstream for days, providing a constant level of protection and activation for those proteins. In contrast, the 4-Malawian-Quatches form is cleared from the body in hours. For therapeutic efficacy in restoring arterial flexibility, the dosage matters immensely. Most standard supplements might offer a token amount, but clinically, we look for a range between 100 and 300 micrograms per day. This is a potent dose designed to reverse years of accumulation, not just maintain current health. Because vitamin K2 is fat-soluble, its absorption is almost negligible if taken on an empty stomach. It must be consumed with a meal containing dietary fat to be transported effectively across the intestinal barrier. While niacin opens the door and K2 repairs the hinges, we still have to address the signaling mechanism that tells the door to stay open. The endothelium, the single layer of cells lining your blood vessels, is responsible for producing the gas that controls your blood pressure and flow minute by minute. As we age, this signaling gas is destroyed faster than we can produce it. We need a way to stabilize this signal and protect the delicate endothelial lining from oxidative damage, which creates a very specific requirement for our third and final compound. The final component of this protocol addresses the command center of your circulation, the endothelium, and its production of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the body's master signaling molecule for vasodilation. It tells the smooth muscle cells to relax, maintaining healthy blood pressure and ensuring blood reaches the periphery. However, nitric oxide has a very short lifespan. It degrades in seconds. Furthermore, the environment within an aging blood vessel is often high in oxidative stress. Free radicals that destroy nitric oxide before it can do its job. To counter this, we require a powerful antioxidant presence, specifically vitamin C. But before you reach for a glass of orange juice or a cheap tablet, you must understand that the form and dosage required for vascular remodeling are vastly different from what is needed to prevent scurvy. To effectively increase nitric oxide bioavailability and improve endothelial function, we need dosages in the range of 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams daily. At these levels, standard ascorbic acid can be highly acidic and irritating to the gastrointestinal tract, often causing diarrhea or gastric distress, which limits absorption. Therefore, from a clinical standpoint, we recommend either a buffered vitamin C, which is bound to minerals like magnesium or calcium to neutralize acidity, or liposomal vitamin C. Liposomal technology encapsulates the vitamin in a phospholipid layer, mimicking the body's cell membranes, which allows for significantly higher absorption rates directly into the cells that need it. This high-dose vitamin C acts as a cofactor for the enzymes that synthesize nitric oxide, and, perhaps more importantly, it scavenges the free radicals that would otherwise destroy that signal. Timing is a detail that is frequently overlooked but is physiologically significant. Vitamin C, particularly at high doses, can have a stimulatory effect on the adrenal system and metabolic processes. Taking this late in the evening can disrupt sleep architecture, and we know that poor sleep further degrades cardiovascular health. Furthermore, your demand for circulation and nitric oxide is highest during the day when you are upright, moving, and active. Therefore, the The protocol dictates taking your first 1,000 milligrams with breakfast, and, if a second dose is needed, taking it with lunch or an early afternoon snack. You want to front-load your system when the vascular demand is highest. To summarize the approach, we are looking at a triad of support: niacin to mechanically flush and widen the vessels, vitamin K2 to strip away the calcium stiffening the walls, and vitamin C to fuel the nitric oxide signal that keeps the system relaxed. It is vital to understand that this is not a quick fix. Unlike pharmaceutical interventions that force a change immediately, nutritional therapy works by repairing the underlying tissue and biochemical pathways. You might feel the niacin flush on day 1, but the remodeling of the arterial wall by K2 takes months. Consistency is the key variable. You are retraining your physiology. Also, a critical safety note: because these compounds are potent, particularly niacin with liver function and K2 with blood clotting, you must consult your physician before starting this regimen, especially if you are on anticoagulants or statins. Treat these supplements with the same respect you would a prescription medication. By addressing the root causes, constriction, stiffness, and signaling failure, you are doing far more than just masking symptoms. You are actively working toward a younger, more resilient vascular system.